Good morning, boys and girls. We're going to continue talking about poetry and reading more stories from our poem book, Thunder Underground. Poetry is a style of writing where writers play with words. Poetry can really be anything. The main purpose for writing poetry is to make a connection with the reader. There really are no rules. Today we're going to talk about poetry that appeals to our five senses. And we talked a little bit about what our five senses are. Our senses are seeing, sight, okay, things that we can see, tasting, touching, things that we feel, smelling, and hearing, things that we hear. I posted a little video this morning that was of a thunderstorm that we were having right here in Arkansas. And I asked you to see what senses you were using during that thunderstorm. You were probably using your sense of hearing to hear the thunder. And you were probably using your sense of sight to see the rain and the hail that was falling onto the ground. Well, poets use words that activate our senses because this helps us to create images in our heads. If I told you that I had a bunch of flowers that I was smelling, could you kind of in your mind smell the flowers too because you've smelled them before? Or if I said I was petting a puppy and it felt so soft, if you've ever pet a puppy, you would know how soft that felt, right? Well, today we're going to read a poem called Subway. Now, a subway is a train, but it's a train that goes under the ground in a tunnel. Okay, so if you have ever ridden Trax, the train that we have that goes to Salt Lake City, that's kind of what a subway looks like, except it's under the ground. It's in a tunnel under the ground. So it could be like going underneath your feet when you're walking along the ground. Is that crazy? So in big cities, they have subways. And in the poem we read today, I want you to think about what senses you are using as the author writes this poem, Subway. I like the sound. Oh, we know right away that we are using sound, right? I like the sound the subway makes deep in its underground den. I like the growling as it goes from street to street. And then I like the squeals its iron wheels make coming round again. So what kind of things did we hear in the first part of that poem? We heard the growling that it makes going under the ground. We heard the squeals from the iron wheels going round and round again. I like the flickering lights below that make the nighttime day. Would you hear the lights flickering? No, you would see them, right? So that's another sense that we use, our sense of sight. I like the rumbling, jumbling cars along the long railway. What sense do you think you would be using if the train cars were rumbling and jumbling? Would you feel that? Yeah. I only wish that I could ride the subway trains all day. Okay, so let's talk about the different senses that we used as we were listening to that poem. Oh, I'm giving you the answers. If you will get a piece of paper and a pencil, I would like you to write down the 5 senses that we use. Hear, and if you just want to draw a picture of an ear, that's okay. See, some eyes. Taste, that would be our mouth. Smell, our nose. And touch or feel, that would be our hands. So if you'll pause the video for just a minute and write those down, we're going to talk about things in the poem Subway that we used our senses for. Okay, are you back? Now, we didn't use all of our senses, did we? But did we hear something in the poem Subway? What did we hear? I like the sound the subway makes deep in its underground dens. Do you remember what we heard? I like the growling as it goes from street to street. And then I like the squeals its iron wheels make coming round again. So we heard a growling sound and we heard the squeals of the wheels. Okay, you can write those down. And again, if you need to pause while you write them, that's fine. Did we use our sense of sight or seeing? Did we see anything in the poem? I like the flickering lights below that make the nighttime day. Do you think that you would see lights if they were flickering? Yes, flickering lights. Did we taste anything in that poem? No. I'm imagining that it might taste kind of metally or smoky underground, but it didn't talk about that in the poem. Did we smell anything in the poem? It didn't talk about smelling anything, but again, I would guess that it might smell kind of damp or smoky underground. Did we feel anything? I like the rumbling, jumbling cars along the long railway. I only wish that I could ride the subway trains all day. Yes, the rumbling, jumbling cars. That was a fun poem. We're going to read one more poem as we work on our vocabulary and comprehension. So please join me back in a few minutes for our vocabulary and grammar, and we will be reading another poem from our book for that. See you then.